here we are in the cab of the 2025 S7 800. First thing you're going to notice is a lot more space compared to the 24 and previous models of combine from John Deere that were 6 to 8 series combines, and 9 series. The X9 cab that is on S7s now adds a lot more cup holders to your right, rear, and then it also allows more space for people in your buddy seat to be on the left side. Another thing that I really appreciate about John Deere combines is the ability to have a dual monitor, which works really great with the S7s and the new technology packages that come with them. So with a bigger cab and newer screens that are G5s, they're getting bigger, have better picture quality. You can now still see out the combine very well. You have a new corner post display in the corner now that is more rectangular and an actual screen referencing a lot of things that come with technology on the S7s, like your predictive ground speed automation. In your bottom right, you're gonna have your grain loss monitors that are gonna add up in your bottom right to what your actual grain loss is out of 10. It's always a scale out of 10. We'll get to that in a minute. And then you have your main bar of grain loss just above those two. On the left, you're gonna look at something that's very similar. You're gonna have your feeder house height, and then its angle of tack that it has. Above that is your speed and RPMs, your speed your speed modes that you're at, and then you're also gonna have your most important bar level, in my opinion, is your kW bar, kilowatt, right? Is your horsepower. So you're gonna have your green, yellow, and red. That will also have a percentage number right to the left of it that will show what you're at. What comes with the X9 cab is a feature that many will appreciate, and that's a much quieter operating cab. So when you're inside, this cab does extremely well in every crop that we've thrown through it, and keeping a noise level to a minimum that isn't attainable with older models and previous generations that come from John Deere. So a lot more quietness to your workflow. Now on top of that, you don't quite hear the engine as much. So that bar is going to be extremely important in knowing where you're at. A combine is going to be the most productive at being full, achieving max throughput, while also maintaining the productivity you want without starting to lose grain out the rear end and unthreshing the way you want to. So combines work really well when you have it threshing to the max ability that it can at the speed that you can get. We call that throughput. So that number is going to be extremely important. The closer you get to 100, the more productivity you're going to get out of the machine. Right to that is going to be your temperature, your diesel exhaust fluid level, and then your fuel level. All of that is also obtainable fluid-wise on your G5 that you can switch. So in between the corner post is going to be our 2 displays. On this model, you're going to have the features that come with predictive ground speed automation that work really well with a dual screen setup. On the top, I like to have the harvest automation page. So on your left side, you have your set speed, max set speed that you have, your horsepower rating, which could go up to 105% in predictive ground speed automation when it's turned on. And then you have your grain loss, your foreign material, and your broken grain just below that. Those are going to be your settings that you set, 0 out of 10. The way I like to explain it to guys is 0 is going to be the more precise level that you can get. So if you see a corn kernel that isn't being threshed as well at say a 6, you're going to start dropping that bar level closer to a lower number. It's the end of the year. You see a field that is near a storm that you're getting to. You get into it and that storm's getting closer. Last field of the year. One thing I like to explain to guys is if you just want to get the field done with, the quality of your cut is still important, but you want to get through it faster. you're gonna start opening up the combine a little differently than you would when you are wanting to be more precise. So you're gonna go closer to 10. So if you don't quite care about grain loss and you want to get the job done, you can start increasing that number closer to 10. So that your level that you set's on the left, and then your real-time settings that are being impacted and numbers that come with that are going to be on the right. So you have your ceiling, and then on the right of that you're going to have your actual real-time numbers. To the right of that is your grain loss sensor pad on the left and right. And then on the right corner and all the way down, you can change some of that. For mine, I like to have the grain camera. So we have clean grain going up to the clean tank. You can see that coming through real time while you're seeing what your grain loss is at, your foreign material and your broken grain. And then you're watching your speed just below that. So it's all in one picture, and you still see really well with the X9 cab. I have it set to show grain level just below that, so that when you're busy, you're focused on your header height now a lot more, because you no longer have to set your speed and keep changing it all day. You can kind of start staying at a speed. So now you can focus on your header. Well, eventually you're looking down so much that you're gonna get lost sometimes with looking up at your grain tank through the mirrors, right? Well, having that number right there is just handy. And then I can triple check that with the window image. So that's what I like to have with this machine as a screen. And you can still flip and flop. I like to use the top right button to bring up, maybe I have my preferred combine settings. So maybe I only want to see my productivity, my acres per hour, my gallon per acre. Maybe I just want that with my guidance page. All of that is accessible with these two screens, and you can keep playing with them all day. So I prefer to have the predictive ground speed up front. That way I can keep an eye on my crop, keep an eye on my bin, keep an eye on my horsepower and where my header's at height-wise, and it's all in one picture. So that's something I really like about these combines. When it comes to the armrest, everything is going to be similar to the S7 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So 24 and previous and 25 and newer at the moment are still very similar in the hydrostat buttons. They're all still in the same spot. RPMs, parking, lights, music, and then your traditional concave and harvest settings and that dial that come with it, all still very similar. So you should be able to go from a 24 model to a 25 and be able to drive it, lower the header, turn everything on the exact same way. With the G5, yeah, it's a very clear picture. So one of the cool things that come with this model, with your visibility packages that you can get, is cameras all around it. So I have it set on this combine to instantly go to video on my bottom tab. I can check my grain tank camera, I can check my rear view camera, and then I can check my unloading auger. And one of my favorite things is when I'm backing up, I want the backup camera to turn on my screen as soon as I start going in reverse. That way I see what's behind me. When I start going to neutral and forward, it goes back to my main screen. When I open my auger and I start turning it on, you can have it programmed so that camera turns on, and you can see your nozzle aiming in a grain cart right down to the bottom if it was an empty tank, and see how it's flowing into there, and really get picky now with where you're putting your grain. And lastly, when you have a feature like cross auger shutoff, where maybe you want to time that a little differently, you want to shut that auger off in time for that grain cart to be full, then you can have that auger camera really help you out in timing it just right. Or if you really needed it to, you can still double click a cross auger shut off function and it will shut off right away if you have to double click. But that camera really helps me and operators pick where I want that to end in 4 seconds. It's really handy. So let's flip this combine around and we'll go talk about some of the features on the back end.